Good morning, everyone. I am Daisy Joy A. De Vera, the reporter. So, our next topic is the Japanese occupation. When Japan invaded the Philippines, General Douglas MacArthur declared Manila an open city on the advice of Commonwealth President Manuel L. Quezon to avoid its destruction. Luis Tarok, Juan Fileo, Castro Alejandrino, and other leaders of organized farmers held a meeting in February 1942 in Cabiao, Nueva Ecija. In that meeting, they agreed to fight the Japanese as a unified guerrilla army. Another meeting was held the following month, where representatives from Tarlac, Pampanga, and Nueva Ecija agreed to call their organization Hukbalahap, or Hukbo ng Bayan laban sa Hapon. Tarok was chosen to be the leader of the group, with Alejandrino as his right-hand man, and the members were known as Hooks. Peasants who supported them earned fixed rentals, while landowners who supported the Japanese lost their lands to peasants. But this was short-lived because it ended with the end of World War II. The problems of land tenure in the Philippines remained even after the Philippine independence in 1946. So, to address the problem, the Philippines Congress revised the tenancy law. So next is President Manuel A. Roxas. He is the president of the Philippines during 1946 to 1948. Now, if you are asking why we jumped to President Manuel Roxas and what about President Jose P. Laurel and President Sergio Osmeña, it is because President Laurel and President Osmeña served as the president of the Philippines during the Japanese occupation. So there's no land reforms being issued by the time. And Osmeña would run in the post-war presidential elections held in 1946 but lose to President Manuel Roxas. During Roxas' administration, the following laws were enacted: the Republic Act No. 34 and Republic Act No. 55. Republic Act No. 34, which established the 70-30 sharing arrangements and regulated the shared tenancy contracts. The 70% of the harvest will go to the person who shouldered expenses for planting, harvesting, and for the work animals. And for the Republic Act No. 55, which provided for a more effective safeguard against arbitrary ejectment of tenants. President Elpidio R. Quirino, the President of the Philippines during 1948 to 1953. He issued the Executive Order No. 355 on October 23, 1950, replaced the National Land Settlement Development Corporation or LASEDECO that took over the responsibilities of the Agricultural Machinery Equipment Corporation and the Rice Corn Production Administration. So LASEDECO was established to accelerate and expand the peasant resettlement. However, due to limited post-war resources, the program was not successful. Next, we have President Ramon F. Magsaysay. He is the President of the Philippines during 1953 to 1957. He enacted the following laws. First is the Republic Act No. 1160 of 1954, which abolished the LASEDECO and established the National Resettlement and Rehabilitation Administration or NARA to resettle dissidents and landless farmers. It was particularly aimed at rebel returnees, providing home lots and farmlands in Palawan and Mindanao. Republic Act 1199 or Agricultural Tenancy Act of 1954, which governed the relationship between landowners and tenant farmers by organizing shared tenancy and leasehold system. It also created the Court of Agrarian Relations. Next is the Republic Act No. 1400 or Land Reform Act of 1955, which created the Land Tenure Administration or LTA that was responsible for the acquisition and distribution of large tenanted rice and corn lands over 200 hectares for individuals and 600 hectares for corporations. Republic Act Number 821, or Creation of Agricultural Credit Cooperative Financing Administration, which provided loans to small farmers and share tenants with interest rates of as low as 6 to 8%. Next to President Magsaysay is President Carlos P. Garcia in 1957 to 1961. President Carlos P. Garcia succeeded the presidency after the death of the President Ramon Magsaysay and continued his program. So there was no legislation passed in his term, but he continued to implement the land reform programs of President Magsaysay. President Diosdado P. Macapagal, the Philippine President from 1961 to 1965. He is considered the father of agrarian reform. He enacted the Republic Act Number 3844 of August 8, 1963, or Agricultural Land Reform Code. And this was considered to be the most comprehensive piece of agrarian reform legislation ever enacted in the country, because this act abolished share tenancy, institutionalized leasehold, set retention limit at 75 hectares, invested rights of preemption and redemption of tenant farmers, provided for an administrative machinery for implementation, institutionalized a judicial system of agrarian cases, incorporated extension, marketing, and supervised credit system of services of farmer beneficiaries. So, what happened to the implementation of this act? The landed Congress did not provide effort to come up with a separate bill to provide funding for its implementation. However, this act was piloted in the provinces of Pangasinan, Bulacan, Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, Tarlac, Occidental Mindoro, Camarines Sur, and Misamis Oriental. Next, we have President Ferdinand E. Marcos, the Philippine President from 1965 to 1986. The Philippines' new society, or Kilusang Bagong Lipunan, was ushered in by the Proclamation of Martial Law, or Proclamation Number 1081 on September 21, 1972. During this time, the Agrarian Reform Program was put into law and the Land Reform Program was implemented. President Marcos decreed the following. First, Republic Act Number 6389, or Code of Agrarian Reform, and Republic Act Number 6390 of 1971, that created the Department of Agrarian Reform and the Agrarian Reform Special Account Fund and expanded the scope of agrarian reform. Second, Presidential Decree Number 2, September 26, 1972, declared the country under Land Reform Program and activated the Agrarian Reform Coordinating Council. All government agencies were ordered to fully cooperate and assist the Department of Agrarian Reform, or DAR. So the third one is Presidential Decree Number 27 on October 21, 1972, restricted the land reform scope to tenanted rice and corn lands and set the retention limit at 7 hectares. So the Presidential Decree Number 27 became the heart of the Marcos reform. His agrarian reform program was designed to uplift the farmers from poverty and ignorance, and to make them useful, dignified, responsible, and progressive partners in nation building. His agrarian reform program was a package of service extended to farmers in the form of credit support, infrastructure, farm extension, land assistance, electrification, and development of rural institutions. So this is where my topic ends, and up next is President Corazon C. Aquino, which will be reported by the next reporter. So I hope you learn and understand my lesson. That's all. Thank you.